Well, considering that my old review wasn't that good, I guess it's time to revisit one of my favorite games of all time, Tekken 2. This game was the second entry in the Tekken series and is the direct sequel to the first game. It was released in 1995 for the arcades and 1996 for the Sony PlayStation. This game included a lot of new features that weren't seen in its prequels, such as new modes like Team Battle, Time Attack, Survival, and Practice Mode. As you can see, the graphics look amazing, a major improvement over its predecessor. They look amazing for 1995 and 1996. Now, I know that they appear blocky, but what makes up for it is the fluent animation. The animation looks very realistic for a 90s fighting game, and it makes the game have a very unique environment. The game also features a larger character roster than the first Tekken. It has returning characters such as Paul Phoenix, Kazuya Mishima, and Heihachi Mishima, for example. Other new characters include Jun Kazama, Lei Wulong, Jack 2, and many others. The game also has a much wider soundtrack that includes tracks from the first game and tracks made for this game. It utilizes tracks from the arcade and PlayStation ports much like the first game. In my opinion, Tekken 2 has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, on par with its successor. The music is so memorable that even anyone who's never played this game in their lives must have heard it at least once. The soundtrack is so good, I have it downloaded on my iTunes. Just thought I'd throw it out there. The gameplay is really fast, fluent, and beyond playable. It uses the same engine as the first game, but amps up the environment by a lot. There's a lot of different movesets to pick from and utilize. It feels less repetitive than the first game. Of course, there's nothing wrong with repetition as long as it has variety. After all, a lot of games have repetition. However, when you play as characters with identical movesets, it can get old. This is why I'm glad that Tekken 2 feels a lot more wider in terms of characters and gameplay. What also makes this game awesome is the storyline. Without going on for a long time, here's a good summary. Set 2 years after the events of the first Tekken, where Kazuya threw his father Heihachi Mishima off a cliff, which ironically was the same one that Heihachi threw Kazuya off of when he was a kid, Kazuya takes over the Mishima Zaibatsu and is more powerful than ever. He's conducting a lot of evil genetic experiments, such as extorting money from several organizations and smuggling endangered species. The reason he's doing these awful acts is because he allowed the Devil Gene, an entity, to take over his mind as a result of his hatred towards Heihachi. Much like Kazuya, Heihachi survived the fall thanks to his superhuman resilience. He climbs back up and meditates to enhance his fighting ability, and Kazuya, being aware that Heihachi is still alive, announces the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2 with a large cash prize of $1 trillion, knowing Heihachi would show up. During the final round, Heihachi and Kazuya meet again and battle once again, but this time, Heihachi wins the fight due to the internal conflict within Kazuya as a result of the Devil Gene not being strong enough to overpower Heihachi. Heihachi then drops Kazuya's body in a volcano and it erupts, having successfully taken his revenge. And this ending is the only canon ending in the game, which we would later see again in multiple games, starting with Tekken 4. Another aspect to Tekken 2 is the CGI endings, which tells the story of each character. Like, for example, in Michelle Chang's ending, the pendant that she throws is the same pendant that Kazuya is trying to steal, and Michelle throws it away to keep it safe. Out of all the CGI endings in the game, only one is canon, and that's the aforementioned Heihachi's ending. Despite that, I think it's pretty cool how each character got their own endings, even if not all of them were canon. On to the modes. Tekken 2 has a brand new mode called Team Battle. In Team Battle, you can select up to 8 characters and survive your way through a number of opponents until you win. In Survival mode, you pick a character and fight your way through an unlimited amount of opponents. This mode is all about how many opponents you can beat in one sitting. This is my personal favorite mode of the game, by the way. Time Attack is basically arcade mode, except that the mode uses the default settings of the game and revolves around how long you'll take to beat the game. It's basically you against the clock. Tekken 2 was also re-released on PlayStation 2 as a part of Tekken 5's arcade history mode known as Tekken 2 version B. 1 to 2 years later, Tekken 2 was re-released on PlayStation Network for the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Portable as a downloadable game. The game was a massive success internationally. It was a bestseller in the UK, it sold over 1 million sales in Japan, and was widely acclaimed by critics and fans who hailed this game as one of the greatest fighting games of all time. The game received many awards such as Best Arcade Game in 1996 for GamePro, and 2 Electronic Gaming Monthly Awards for Best Fighting Game and Best PlayStation Game in the same calendar year. The game was praised for its fluid character animation, detailed backgrounds which for the record has real-life landmarks, movesets and combos, great character roster, accessibility to newcoming players, and the practice mode. Needless to say, it's not hard to see why this game is loved. As a piece of trivia, this is my very first video game I've ever played, and this game leaves a huge nostalgic effect on me. It's one of those games you need to play before you die. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope it was at least better than my first one. If you guys did enjoy this review, be sure to subscribe for more reviews in the future and from other videos on the Shiz Network. And until then, peace out and deuces, be on the infinite, and as always, think for yourself.